What's up, everyone? This is Jay from Revolution Radio, and today I want to talk about journalistic freedom. We hear about it a lot, especially when it pertains to someone like Jim Acosta or Jorge Romero's, and especially if it involves Donald Trump. And these stories monopolize mainstream media. Oh, Trump was mean to him. Trump's that's a way of Trump threatening journalists. We, though, don't hear it when our government is wrongfully imprisoning journalists. We don't hear it when these journalists speak out against our government's imperialistic actions. I am, of course, talking about Max Blumenthal being arrested a few days ago. He was arrested by the DC police. They surrounded his house in a SWAT team type style. Um, he was allowed to grab his coat and was taken early in the morning into a paddy wagon and was transported 2 or 3 times after his arrest. He was not allowed to speak to a lawyer. It was only due to, I guess, some of his friends and probably his colleagues at the Gray Zone Project is how his lawyer was notified and he was finally released. Um, Much in the way that you would um, find someone who's noble, honorable. Max Blumenthal has talked about the situation, and in many ways, he's told the story, but he's also talked about the people who were also arrested, not for doing the same thing, but for petty crimes and trying to shine a light on, criminal injustice. Not the point. It just gives you an idea who this guy is. Um, and if you're not familiar, you should definitely head over to the Gray Zone. Uh, they do amazing stories that you're not going to see them pop up too often, namely because they speak truth to power. And they do what journalism is supposed to be. It is long, investigations, it's following leads, research, uh, traveling, being amongst the people that they're speaking about for long periods of time, and stories often take a while to come out of the gray zone, which is great. So again, it's the way it should be. We are conditioned to things like CNN and Fox News, and every day there's something new, a new drip every 12 hours. But that's not the way journalism works. Um, you can't keep up with that level of news. You can hear about a headline and comment on the headline. You might even be able to write a short little few page or piece on a story every day. But to actually do any of the research required to learn all sides of the story, to learn any of corruption, anything of that nature, it takes quite a while. And that's what these guys do. Now, Max Blumenthal's big sin is that he speaks out against American imperialism. Um, he and the Gray Zone have done this all over the world. One of the most notable things that they've done was in Syria. They pointed out information about the White Hats, which there's a lot there, and I don't want to butcher the information that they uncovered. But needless to say, that the White Hats now, and they covered this a long time ago, but the White Hats now are performing ethnic cleansing in northern Syria, and they are American funded, and that's something we learn from the Gray Zone. That's the kind of work these guys do. Uh, but the issue that the American government had with Max Blumenthal, at least as far as the arrest is concerned, was the Venezuelan coup that we had staged. I'll give a brief rundown. So, the people of Venezuela democratically elected Maduro. We did not like that, and so we backed Juan Guaido when Juan Guaido said that he was going to take over as president. I believe within a few minutes, we had people like President Trump and Marco Rubio showing support for Guaido, which seemed very weird. How would they be so ready to make that kind of commitment without knowing anything? You could compare it to Hillary Clinton standing up and saying, "Nope, I'm president now," and China going, "Yeah, we back her." That's basically what happened. Many of the Venezuelan people, majority of the Venezuelan people, did not want us involved. They wanted us out. And one of the ways that they did this was that they they did a protest of a form of like a sit-in at the embassy. They were kept there for days. They were unable. No one was allowed to bring them food. All their supply lines were cut off, and they sat there in protest, um, preaching and screaming about how there is no coup. There is a coup, but on America's standpoint, and they want America out. Uh, no coup, no oil, kind of thing. So what happened was that Max Blumenthal, being a humanitarian and obviously somebody who's going to call America out on their BS, went to the embassy to bring food. That's it. That's it. They're charging him for simple assault because he was bringing food to the embassy. He, there's nothing more to the story uh, as far as something he did illegal. And that was 5 months ago. He was arrested a couple of days ago. Now, you might say, yeah, okay, so he's a reporter, he's reported in Syria, and he's done this and that. But why would they really have a problem with this Venezuelan thing? Well, one of the many notable things that Max Blumenthal and the Gray Zone Project has uncovered is the fact that they shined a light on the fact that this is an American staged coup in Venezuela. They were some of the first to talk about this. And when mainstream media like the New York Times was talking about what a monster Maduro was and how the people supported Guaido, you had Ben Norton, Max Blumenthal, Eva Bartlett, people like that on the streets in Caracas showing, look, this is what the people, this is how they feel. And they supported Maduro. They showed and talked to people, and the majority of the people, it was in support of Maduro. Max Blumenthal went to grocery stores and showed large stocked grocery stores when we were told, no, they're eating out of trash cans. They shined a light, a much needed light, on a country that Americans weren't aware of. But to go even further, what they did is, if you are familiar with the Venezuelan situation, um, there was some aid that was being sent to Venezuela, and New York Times reported that it was set on fire by Maduro. But Max Blumenthal was one of the first people to report no, it wasn't. It was actually the quote unquote opposition, Juan Guaido and his people, and some Colombians as well who were part of this team with Juan Guaido. So years, I think, of speaking truth to power. I honestly believe what Max Blumenthal and Ben Norton and these guys did in Venezuela held off a coup. Their reporting, I think, stopped one of the potentially one of the worst incidents that we would have caused in Venezuela. Um, and the American government's pissed off. The military, the defense contractors, they're pissed off, and they're sending him a message. Hey, don't report on what we're doing. You shut your mouth and fall in line. And people like him and um, a lot of these independent journalists, unfortunately there's not many of them. Many times when they start speaking truth to power, they're either offered high-paying gigs or they're exiled, like Julian Assange. And Max Blumenthal has had opportunities for high-paying gigs, and he instead just reports the truth. It was definitely a threat what we saw, and it's not shocking. But what is shocking is all the media outlets, the journalists who are not reporting on this. It's a huge situation. It, in many ways, he was a political prisoner in our government, an American citizen, wrongfully arrested and detained for being a journalist. Where was the New York Times? Where was the Washington Post? You know, when democracy dies? Yeah, where was the light there? Huh, Jeff Bezos? You know, when Cody Weddle and Jorge Ramos, when they were detained for a few hours by Maduro, it made mainstream news everywhere. We had a guy from our country, one of our people, one of our journalists, speaking truth to power of American imperialism. And he is arrested and wrongfully detained, unable to contact his lawyer, which is unconstitutional, for 36 hours. And not one of these rags reports on it. See it on CNN either. Nowhere. It was kept really, really quiet. If it were not for him speaking out, we may not have known about it. And that's sad. It's a real sad state in America. Anyway, guys, um, I just I know it's not exactly current event, but this is something you guys need to know about and learn about. Something I should have known about, and I just found out yesterday. Curious about your thoughts on this. Um, if you haven't checked it out, like I said, definitely check out the Gray Zone Project. What they do is amazing work. I've learned so much from studying these guys. We do have an interview on the Revolution Radio YouTube page where we talked to Ben Norton for a lengthy amount of time. These guys, they're such informed people. It was a wonderful conversation. But anyway, please like, subscribe, all that dumb stuff. Appreciate any sort of content. Spotify, thank you so much for all of your comments and interactions. I really appreciate them. Anyway, thanks a lot, guys. Have a good evening.